Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books for another episode of Grammaticus Books. Today, what we got online for you is A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. It's the first in Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars series. Was his epic pulp fiction series that spanned the early 1900s with a number of novels. I think there were 5 of them. I've got all but one downstairs in my library bookshelves. But what we've got today is the first one in the series, which I recently refinished reading. I originally read it back in my teens, back in high school, so long ago I won't recount. And I thought I had the paperback that I had originally read, and it turns out this was it, which is actually God of Mars, or The Gods of Mars, which is a very good book. A nice cover here by, I think it's Michael Whalen. From 1979 is this Del Rey edition, with a cover artwork by Michael Whalen, which is a wraparound cover. It's pretty nice stuff, but it's not as nice as the hardcover edition that I actually have of A Princess of Mars, which has got this classic cover by Frank Frazetta, which has been mimicked so many times it's become a cliche, but what a beautiful cover. So this is the hard copy cover that I have of it. This is 1970. It is a book club edition. I picked it up at a used bookstore here in this area. It also has got a nice little interior artwork drawn by Frank Frazetta of Deja Thoris there with her pet guardian, her Sparsumian pet guardian. Paid $3 for this. It's right there. Back in, I don't know how many decades ago when I bought this at a used bookstore. Karen Wycliffe's here in town. But I didn't read this one either. I actually, when I refinished it last week, finished going through Princess of Mars, I actually did the audio version of it, which was excellent. It was done very well. And I will do a video here in the future of audiobooks versus hardcover or paperback books, and which format is best, which one that I like best. I like all of them, to be frank with you. When I'm reading, I like a paperback, but I do have quite a bit of time that I spend traveling in a car for my job, and audiobooks are outstanding. I know some people have some issues with them, and again, I'll devote an entire video to audiobooks versus the hard paperback or hardback books, and the pros and cons of each, and give you some pointers on the best way to listen to audiobooks. But that's for another time. Today, it is A Princess of Mars, right here. Got one other version of this. I don't know if it counts as a book. It does not count as a novel, that's for sure. But it's the comic book version. This is issue 1 of John Carter, Warlord of Mars by Marvel Comics. And I've got the first 12 issues or so of this. And I believe this is Gil Kane. That's a Gil Kane cover. And I think the interior artwork is Gil Kane as well. This is a great run by Marvel as well. But again, we're talking about Princess of Mars. It is, if you're not familiar with it, John Carter is a Civil War veteran who's retired, and he goes out west to find his fortune and encounters Indians while he's out in the West. I know it's Native Americans these days, but this was written in 1912, and they're Indians. And they trap him in a cave, and the cave has mystical properties, which in this book doesn't go into in a bunch of detail. Maybe it does in the later ones. And he gets transported out of this cave to Mars, where he wakes up, and he's there at the dying of Mars. The cultures are dying down, but they're still there and present and fighting. The Martian ecology is kind of slowly grinding down as he gets to it, but it's still in full swing. You have the red men of Mars, the green men of Mars, and on and on. And the novel is an epic pulp fantasy fiction adventure on a planetary scale, and it's fantastic. It's really great stuff. I would call Edgar Rice Burroughs, label him the first world builder, possibly. He's certainly before Frank Herbert, who's widely known as the world builder. But that's exactly what this book is. It is Edgar Rice Burroughs via his main character, John Carter, written in the first person, kind of looking back. It's kind of weird, the perspective on it. And I'll go into that a bit too here, just in a little while. But it's him looking back on his adventures on Mars and relating it almost like in a first-person present and then in a first-person past perspective, which gives it an odd flavor. But he just builds the entire ecology of Mars and almost like a tour travel guide book. that he brings about with the ecology, the flora, the fauna, the mating habits of the Martians. He goes into the mating habits, and he just constructs his whole world. And that's really the strength of this book, is how imaginative that Edgar Rice Burroughs is able to bring this world to life, to create it in detail, populated with all these different races and all the different politics and interactions. And then he works his main character, John Carter, through this labyrinth of politics and into action and intrigue on the planet Mars. And it's a fantastic adventure. I really enjoyed it. It's very good. What I didn't like so much about it, some of the negatives I would add to it is, again, it's written in a very strange perspective. At times it's first person in the present, but then much of the book is written in a first person in the past. And so it's like you feel like you're sitting at a bar with John Carter on Earth, and he's drinking beers, you're buying each other beers, and he's sitting there and he's relating to you his adventures while you guys are sitting there at a bar, reliving his past while he tells you what happened to him on the planet. And it's an interesting perspective, and it works well. But for me, what it did is it lets you know, it takes some of the tension out of the novel, because you know that no matter what type of a tight spot that he's gotten into, that he's going to get out of it, because you're sitting here drinking beers with him on a bar on Earth 20 years later, or 10 years later, I think it is in the novel. He says he hasn't been back to Mars in 10 years, that everything is going to work out okay. And I do think that takes a little immediacy away from it. It takes some of the tension out of some of the scenes, but it doesn't, destroy the book by any means at all. Don't let me dissuade you from reading it because of that. The book really has a lot of great things that you should still read it for. And like I said, the world building is just excellent. It's this fantastic intergalactic pulp fiction, fantasy romance adventure thriller that really works on all levels, and is something that you should really read if you haven't read it already. And there is an audiobook version of it. So if you don't have time to pick up a novel and read, and you got a long drive in the car, get the audiobook version, throw it in there, and enjoy it, because it is a great adventure romp, and you will enjoy it. The other thing that I really didn't kind of care for with it, with Mr. Burroughs and his writing style, is he's very strong at world building. He really knows how to write a very good pulp fantasy adventure. But what he is kind of a little weak on is his action sequences. He doesn't write action great. It's not horrible, but he doesn't do it really well. It's not written in a strong manner, like say like a Robert E. Howard. I mean, Robert E. Howard could write action scenes like really nobody since then or before him. He was the master at writing violent action that puts you into it and really make it feel like you were there in the middle of the action, and that anything could happen in this action at any time. With Edgar Rice Burroughs, I don't get that feel at all. You really you're looking back at it from about maybe a 500-foot view as you're looking down on the action, and it's kind of flat in parts. So I think that is a bit of a weak part in his writing style. I'm going to continue the series. I'll see if that changes. I suspect it's not going to change that much. So it was a little bit of a detractor, but again, overall, this is a really good fantasy book read. If you've not read A Princess of Mars, I mean, it's one of the classics of pulp fiction, fantasy adventure. If this is the type of thing that you like and you haven't read it, what's stopping you? You got to go out and get this book. You got to go get it. They're easy to get. You can pick them up on eBay for dirt cheap, or go down to your local used bookstore, and they've almost certainly have got a Del Rey edition of this sitting there somewhere, or a reprint, and you can pick it up and check it out. It's a fast read. It's not going to invest a ton of your time in it, and it's a very rewarding read for the amount of time that you invest into it. So you get a good return on it. But that is pretty much it for John Carter, Warlord of Mars. I hope you enjoyed this video episode of it. There'll be more to come. Every Friday and Monday, had a little lapse. We're changing things. We're always going to try to change things up and keep things rolling here at Grammaticus Books. My next video will be on Conan, the comic book. I'm going to open up issue number 24, as promised in my previous Conan review of the novel was in the Sowers of Thunder, when I also did the comic book version of Sowers of the Thunder, which is got the Shadow of the Vulture story in that, and starts in issue 22, and there's 23 and 24, and there's a bit of a mix-up at Marvel that sort of stretches it out over those. But go check out that episode if you haven't. It's on my main channel. It's a really good one. That's a great book by Robert Howard, Swords of Thunder. But we're going to open up Conan number 24, the next one. Check that one out as well. And that's about it for this episode. So take care, be safe, and hopefully I will be seeing you in the future.